Welcome to the battlefield, my warriors. This is DarcsenOfLegend, and today I have a story for you. Don't mind the creepy hand movements because it's actually not a creepy story. It's a good story. It's the story of what happened to me in my 4 days of Creation Fest Northeast 2013. So basically, before I start the story, I might as well tell you guys what Creation is, and to be honest, I'm kind of half advertising here, but I think that telling you guys what goes on it will probably help the visualization process. Camping is a huge thing with Creation. You don't have to camp. You could always just buy a ticket, come in and out every day. But camping is, camping is accommodated to the extreme. Thousands upon thousands of people come to Creation, and most of them camp. There's this huge hillside in the entrance on a dirt road that comes in, and people just camp there. There are a few other smaller campsites as well, including a trailer park for those that are bringing RVs or trailers or whatever. And it's just a grand old time. It's also given perks to people that are camping and camping in groups. People get more perks and lower pricing on certain things and all that kind of stuff, and that's basically most of the not most of the experience, but it's a large part of the experience. The camping, it's very well recommended for the Creation experience, and it's just really fun because like everywhere you look, there's people playing music, like worshiping, playing on guitar, having worship sessions, devotionals with their Bibles and their groups, having snacks, having cookouts, pulling pranks on people. Oh my goodness, there's pranks everywhere. All this kind of good stuff. All the kind of stuff you would expect to find at the campsite. I don't know if you would expect to find pranks there, but there's a lot of pranks. As well, there are 3 stages. There's the main stage, which is where most of the bands play, most of the well-known ones as well. Some less-known ones are up-and-coming bands, but they're playing there almost constantly during the day, and they're all really good, really good, and it's very easy to hear. The main stage is huge. There's a whole field past the main stage where people lay out tarps and they're folding chairs, and basically just sit there and listen to the concerts. There's also like the area up front where you can go to the mosh pit and everything, and when I say mosh pit, I mean for the main stage most of the time people are like really cramped together and like raising hands and like partying and all that kind of stuff, but it's not the kind of mosh pit where it's like pushing each other and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so there's the mosh pit, then there's like the whole field in the back. It can accommodate hundreds, thousands of people. Another thing is that there's the fringe stage. The fringe stage is basically for lesser known bands or up and coming bands, for people to discover. Like if people want to like find out who this person is or whatever, they go to the fringe stage. And if they're familiar with the band, then obviously that's their choice. They can go to the fringe stage and skip out on the main stage. It's all depends on you. There are multiple kind of bands playing at the same time, some on the main stage, others on the fringe stage. You pick and choose who you want to go see, and it's all a grand time. They also have a heavy metal stage, which plays mostly late at night, because heavy metal's just as part of the music industry as anything else, and also just as much a part of Christianity. Bet you didn't know that. Obviously not everyone, because everyone likes different genres, both in the Christian world and in the secular world. But that's a pretty cool thing. And this year they actually made the heavy metal stage on the fringe stage as well. And like I said, heavy metal plays late at night, so they didn't have any problems accommodating that. But instead of having a whole separate stage, a whole separate third stage, they had it on the fringe stage, and that was pretty awesome. I'm not sure if they're planning on doing that anymore, but it worked. Also, throughout the campsites, they also have bathrooms and showers and stuff. They're nothing special. It's still very much a camping experience. It's pretty limited, I guess the term would be, but it's still enough. It's not bad. It's good. It cleans you. It does its job. It's just not as luxurious as a house or hotel or anything like that. And like I said, there's also that option. You guys could always go to a hotel. But camping experience is the way to go, man. As you guys would expect, there's also like snacks and souvenirs and stuff. There's There's stands everywhere. And there's a whole bunch of merchandise. There's shirts, there's jewelry, there's books, there's obviously CDs, music CDs. That's the main thing. The main two things are CDs and T-shirts, specifically centered around the bands. But there's also a whole bunch of other stuff as well. I mean, I'm just laying out the general idea here. But yeah, so there's all that kind of stuff, and then there's like the food stands for lemonade, for pretzels, ice cream, cheesecake on a stick, all that stuff, all of it, and much more. So it's a grand old time. I would encourage you guys to try to go next year too. It's in Agape Farms, Pennsylvania. I believe it's close to Mount Union. I'll probably, if I made a mistake on that, I'll probably annotate it in the video. But if I didn't, then you guys know I got it right. But anyway, to the actual story then. So, day one, we got there around 9:30, 10 o'clock-ish, and we started setting up camp. Funny thing is that this year it was really crowded, a lot more crowded than usual, so we had to share campsites pretty much. We had to get cramped in there. We had a lot less space than we had last time I went, which was about 3-4 years ago. And the people that we were sharing with were already there setting up, and the funny thing is that they didn't know we were coming. They didn't know they were sharing. So they were setting up this huge tent, not the kind of living tent. They were setting up a eating tent, and it was huge, and it was right in the middle, so they had to pick it up and move it, and then we had to cram ourselves in. It wasn't that bad. We had a good amount of space. It just wasn't very much space, especially in the tent area. But we made it work, and we had a good time with ourselves as well as our neighbors. We also got to fool around with them a little bit and get to know them. So it was a good time. After we set up camp, which was finished around 12:30, we had lunch, and then we all went our separate ways. Some people went to go see bands. Half my group went to go up to the front of the main stage to wait for Switchfoot that would be playing later in the day. And I went to go look at the gift shops to see what they got. I wasn't necessarily planning on buying anything at that time, but I wanted to see what they had so I could get my bearings. And I did actually end up buying stuff that day. I spent most of my money that day, actually. And the reason I wasn't planning on buying stuff the whole first day was because, you know, as bands play once, they're assigned to one particular day, and then they leave, either going somewhere else, either back home or another part of their tour. So they would always set up their tents on the day that they would be playing. So I didn't want to, just buy stuff all the first day. But I found a few things that I had been planning on before to get. So I bought the latest CD of Switchfoot, which is Vice Versa's. It's 2 years old, but it's the latest one, and it's really good. I also found Skillet's new album, Rise, which had came out only a few days before that, and that was definitely one I was planning on buying. I also happened across a book stand for this book series called The Lion of War. It's basically a story centered around David and his band of mighty men. That I'll have to look. I'll annotate whatever books in the Bible that's based off of in the video, but because I don't remember right now. But it's basically a fictional story. It's completely fictional. You know, it's not trying to assume anything. But it was based off of that, David and his mighty men, and it's a trilogy, and it looked really cool. They're actually making a movie. Grant Curtis, the guy who produced the Spider-Man movies for Sam Raimi, is up on that project. He actually jumped on it, like he was the one who said, "Hey, I want to make a movie." So it drew me in because that was one of the few book stands I saw, and they had an awesome TV set, and they showed concept art that they were doing for the comic book series that they were starting, as well as the movie. And there was this like really cool looking guy. He had like pale white skin. He had like nose rings and ear rings and stuff, rings all over his face. He had a gnarly looking shoulder pad that was made out of skulls, and this like really cool looking like claw-like sword and everything, very comic booky, and it drew me in. And I didn't buy anything from that right away, but at the end of the day I went back because it did interest me, and because they had a great deal where I got all 3 books in the trilogy, a t-shirt, and also a carrying bag, for $35, and it was a real good steal. And I've been reading it so far. Only got to read the first 2 chapters, but it's a really good book. I'll probably talk about it and maybe some of the other stuff I came across later, but that's for another time, another video. So then we got to the concerts. The real big one for me the first day was Family Force 5 came up, and the best way to explain what they are, they're pretty much party animals. They do a lot of stuff. Like they're kind of in the rock genre, but they're different from rock. It's like party kind of rock, you know, like party anthem kind of stuff. And they just do an amazing job on their songs and also on their performances. When the guy came out, the lead singer, he came out in a giant hamster ball, and it was so funny. It was so funny. And then when they were performing, they were like headbanging, and they were just jumping around and dancing around and all over the stage, like not just in like one place, like hopping or jumping or whatever. Like they were all over the place. It was amazing, and they were still able to sing perfectly. It was so awesome. And then after that, Switchfoot came on. I'm also a fan of Switchfoot, and I knew most of their songs, unlike Family Force 5, so I was able to sing along, and, you know, loud sounds, music, people singing to themselves or screaming or whatever drowned me out, so I didn't have to worry about my bad singing skills. I just sang to my heart's content, air guitar, banged my head. Well, maybe not bang my head for Switchfoot, but I was rocking out. It was just a grand old time. By the time we were done, I had rocked out so hard that I was really, really, really sweaty, and I wanted to get a shower, but most people like to get showers right as soon as the last band plays or in the morning before anything starts, and so I wasn't able to get a shower. I went to bed in my tent that night really, really sweaty and smelly, and I didn't like it, but it was bearable. And compared to the rest of the nights, that was okay too, because there were 2 things that happened at Creation. One, it was really, really hot. The first day was the worst by far, but I got through it, and everyone got through it. And I'm surprised too, because hot weather usually makes me very irritable, but I was able to maintain a good and positive attitude and have a lot of fun no matter what, so I'm glad about that. But the other thing that happened was it rained a lot. Not so much the first day, but the second, third, and fourth days had torrential rain. So the first night was okay for sleeping, but then after that it started raining, and since our campsite was on an especially downhill slope, the rain kind of sloped down and went inside our tents, especially ours, because my group's tent was donated by someone from the church, but it was very old and wasn't very waterproof, so our stuff got soaked, and my stuff especially, because I was right on the edge of the tent. There were 4 people in a tent, so it was pretty tight to begin with, so I was right on the edge of the tent, on a downhill slope part, so my sleeping bag got soaked, and there was no room for me to lay it out and let it dry the next day, since our camping site was so small. So for the rest of the time, I slept outside underneath the tarp in a lawn chair, which was okay. I mean, I would have had an easier time sleeping in my sleeping bag, but you can get what you get, and I still had a fun time. Everyone played a lot of pranks on me too throughout that time. I would be sleeping on the chair. It was cold out, like not really cold out, but it was kind of cold out, so at times I wouldn't be able to sleep very well, so I would usually sleep in the sunlight when the sun was on me during the day, and my friends would play pranks on me by posing pictures with me while I was sleeping, or putting food on me and pretending like I was like having some kind of binge or something like that. Oh man. Second day was pretty interesting. Nothing really happened until later in the day. Every day, except actually I'm not sure. I think it was even the first day. I'm not sure, but every day, at least from the second through fourth day, at 2 o'clock they're all speakers, and they shut down everything. They shut down the food stands, the souvenir stands, the bands, everything, so that you can just focus on the speakers. Like they want you to go listen to the speakers, because I mean, it's not the only way to worship, but it's still supposed to be a learning experience as well, a worship filled and learning experience, to bring a tribute to our Creator. That's basically the tagline for the event, a tribute to our Creator. So they always want us to go to the speakers, and the speaker on the second day I was interested in going to was Lecrae, who was my favorite rapper, and I was stoked to go see him. But then right before, like I think 10 minutes before 2 o'clock, before it was going to start, it started raining hard, and they canceled the speakers. Like, all the bands that were supposed to play afterwards came out and did their thing because the rain stopped by in enough time for them, but the speakers got canceled, and I was mad for a while. I got over it, obviously. I mean, there's not much you can do. And either way, I got to see Lecrae perform later that night. He was, well, in my opinion, he was the main event, but he was the second to last band. So, but I watched him perform, and I left my tarp like 15-20 minutes early before his concert ended to try to get in line to have him sign, to meet him and stuff. And I got to meet him. It was amazing. The guy, he doesn't focus on fame or anything. He just wants to influence people, and he takes his feeling of success off of being able to do what he does best, and to be able to do it to God's glory. You know, he doesn't put success off of how many records he sold or whatever, and he doesn't like looking at himself as being famous either. And off stage, he was such a cool guy. Like, I just came up to him, he's like, "Hey, where are you from?" I'm like, "I'm from well, actually, I'm not gonna say, but you know." He's like, "Hey, where are you from?" And I just told him, and I'm like, "Man, you inspire me so much. Like, you're like a lot of the reason why I want to be such a godly man." And he's like, "Oh, that's cool, man." And all that kind of stuff. He gave me a fist bump and everything, signed my Bible. It was amazing. I wish I could have been able to spend more time with him, but of course, you know, being a fan with all like hundreds of people lined up behind me, you can't. There's not much you can do. I hope I can meet the guy in person and have a real conversation with him at some point, but we'll see. Third day is my favorite day of the entire creation event. Third day is, as I call it, the worship day, where most of the artists, especially near the end of the day, are centered towards actual worship. Like, I don't know if you guys have heard much about these kind of artists before, especially if you're not familiar with Christian music, but like Chris Tomlin and David Crowder and all them kind of people, like, it's that kind of music. You know, like, obviously I feel like you can still worship God through rock and through rap and all that kind of stuff, but, you know, when it comes right down to it, worship is a very, very intimate time with God. So it's like the worship day. And the really cool thing this year was that they actually had an entire, there's this entire other event that goes on elsewhere during the year called Passion, and that's centered around worship, and it's like a collection of artists and a few speakers and everything, and they come out and do that, and they were actually there at creation. That was the night event. That was all the bands lined up. That was Passion, and it was amazing. It was amazing. I was able to see Passion without having to attend Passion, and it was just so amazing. One of the guys that the first guy that came out for that was David Crowder. He's this awesome guy. If you have, I'll probably post a picture of him on here, but he's this awesome guy. He's like a really long beard, like Duck Dynasty kind of beard, and an afro and everything, glasses, and he played an amazing stuff. And part way through, there was a person in the mosh that was holding up a sign saying, "Mr. Crowder, can I please have your shoes?" And so at some point he stopped after his song, and he's like, "Why do you want my shoes?" And he's like, "Does that person even have any shoes on?" And like the people in the mosh were looking down, and like they're looking back up, like, "No, he doesn't." And he's like, "What size are you?" And the guy answered back, 11. He's like, 11? I'm size 13. I'm not gonna fit you. Everything. And then after that, he sees someone way in the back near the end of the field that is holding up another sign that says, "It's my birthday, Mr. Crowder. Can I please have your shoes?" And these were the only two people here doing that. But he's like, "Man, what's up? What's up with everyone wanting my shoes?" So he like pauses for a second, and he's like, "All right." He like bends down and starts taking off his shoes, and he like hands this one shoe to the closest guy to him, and he's like, "Okay, give that shoe to that guy, and give this shoe to that guy." And then he just started playing some more songs without any shoes on. Oh man, it was so funny, and it was so kind too. But yeah, so that was a really big highlight for me. And then during the night, Chris Tomlin and all the others that came out, I'm actually not sure all who they are because they're artists that I've never heard of before, but they were amazing, and I want to figure out who they were so I can start listening to them as well. But they came out. I got hit with the Holy Spirit. Before that, I was worshiping God. I felt God's presence, and I was just worshiping Him to the best of my ability with everything I had. But there's a special moment sometimes where you are hit with the Holy Spirit and you start feeling spiritual. You know, the kind of thing that most people think that religious people are always trying to do or should always be like, and that's not the case. You know, like I hate using the term religious because I don't think I am religious. I'm a Jesus freak, yeah, but I'm not religious. And I'll talk about what I consider religious in some other video. But yeah, so I got hit with the Spirit, and I was worshiping. I was praying. I was down on my knees, praying. I was bowing, all this kind of stuff. I was crying and all that kind of stuff. And my youth leaders taught me early on how to worship without really caring what other people thought around me, or really, putting much effort into sensing what's going on around me. I just do my own thing, kind of thing. I mean, not like caring about other people, but if people are like looking at me weird or whatever, then I just do what I do, kind of thing. And it was amazing. And then this speaker called Louis Giglio came out, and he's such a good speaker. Oh my goodness. He makes a lot of cool stuff, especially sermons centered around the universe and how amazing it is and all that kind of stuff. Oh my goodness, it's works of art. But it was an amazing time. I was filled with the Spirit and everything. I just worshipped to my heart's content. It's my favorite time of the whole evening. And then afterwards, we had a candlelight service where we were everyone, all thousands of people were given candles, and they just lift them up, and they worship for a while, and it's just awesome to see like a sea of lights like that in the darkness. Oh my goodness, that's so amazing. And then when we came back from the concert after it was all said and done, one of my group members came up to me and asked me like, what'd you do over there, like what was going on? And I told him about it, I was worshiping, like that's what my leaders taught me to do early on, like not saying like this is how you should worship. There's no one way to worship God, and you should just do whatever you feel comfortable doing. But they taught me how to feel comfortable worshiping that way, and I kind of took pointers from them and everything. And like that was the first time that God showed me that sometimes I affect people without knowing it directly, that people watch my actions and are affected by it, that they realize there's something different in me, because he said like he thought it was amazing that I was doing that, and that he believed in God, but like wasn't, he didn't feel like he was that close with him, and he didn't like church and all that kind of stuff. And he was saying a lot of the stuff I thought both before and even after, early on when I came to Christ. And I'll probably talk about some of that stuff in another video as well. But it really touched me, and it really opened my eyes to that, how I affect people, both when I actually know it and when I don't know it. And it was a really cool experience, and I just hope that he wants to come back for more, and get to know God a little bit more. And I just can't even express how great it feels. And I guess that was the highlights for all the third day. A lot of stuff happened. obviously the third day is my favorite, and that's why. The last day, the fourth day, was both a really good day and a really bad day. The only bad stuff that really had happened before that was, like I said, the weather conditions, the rain and the heat and all that kind of stuff, and me not being able to have a sleeping bag. Those were the bad things. But then the worst thing happened. Basically, the day went as normal. I actually was really tired from the first 3 days, so even though I didn't want to, I ended up staying in camp most of the time, just like chilling, because I was really tired. I wanted to go see the bands, but I didn't even feel like I had the energy to move and walk down to even sit on the tarp. So for most of the day I was chilling. Then I went with a friend to the Fringe stage to check out some bands. They were like heavy metal bands that were playing, but they were playing on the Fringe. The Fringe isn't, heavy metal isn't just for the heavy metal time. Like the Fringe stage is for lesser known artists or upcoming artists, and sometimes that does happen to be hard rock or heavy metal or whatever. It's not trying to discriminate or anything like that. So we were checking them out. I think they're actually pretty well known, but either way, they were on the Fringe stage. We checked out a band called We As Human, and that was awesome. And then there was a band called Living Sacrifice. But around that time, it started raining really bad again, so they canceled the bands. They told us to go back to our camps, and so I went back. I don't know what I was doing exactly, but I know that I was going from the main stage to camp at some point, and it started raining out of nowhere, so I got caught right in the middle of it. I was drenched. I got back to camp, and I had no idea what had happened. Some people from my youth group, including one of the leaders, came back and told me that at the main stage there are like these banners on both sides, like these banners that are held down by aluminum poles tied up and everything, and someone didn't do their job and didn't tie down the aluminum pole near the bottom of one side of the stage very well, and so when it started raining and it was really windy too, the wind picked it up, blew it up, and then it came back down and hit someone on top of the head and gave him a gash in the head. And the really crazy thing is that it was only one person, and that one person happened to be someone from my group. But within the time that it took me to walk from the main stage, which I was already past the main stage when that happened, so I didn't see it, to camp, because before that I had gone looking for my friend at the Fringe stage, but I couldn't find him. I figured he was taking shelter somewhere, so I went back to camp. By the time I got there, my other youth leader had taken him in the church van to the hospital and everything, and so we prayed a lot. I think even after we were updated on his status about going to the hospital and how the injury was looking and everything, I prayed like I think 4 separate times, and our neighbors prayed with us and all that kind of stuff, and I was just really worried about him. And I mean, I guess it wasn't really a crisis of faith, because I've been in this 6 years. I've been through a lot personally, and also hearing things from other people. I trust God, I do, even though I don't always understand what he's doing or agree with it or whatever kind of thing. Like, I don't know why that happened, but what I do know is that he was with my friend, because if he was a little bit closer to that pole when it came down on him, it would have crushed his skull instead of giving him a small gash. It was a lot smaller than they originally thought, and he was able to get stitched up pretty well. He did have a concussion, but we checked throughout the night that he was okay, and it seems like he doesn't have any memory loss and that he's doing fine with it. So I just thank God that that the injury wasn't nearly as bad as it could have been. It could have been a lot worse. It could have even killed him. So I'm grateful for that. So yeah, basically that happened. They didn't want us to feel too down or panicked or anything. They wanted us to pray for Aaron, and we did, and wanted to keep him in mind. But they didn't want us to sulk around, so once the bands and stuff opened up, we went back. And like I said, I still had fun, but I kept him in mind and all that kind of stuff. I prayed for him every once in a while. And he came back. He was able to come back in time for the final performance, which happened to be Skillet. And believe it or not, Skillet's Christian. A lot of people I've told that to, like, can't believe it, but if you know Skillet, which I'm sure you must have, because Skillet's taking mainstream by storm and is bringing a lot of people to Christ, and it's amazing. You go back and listen to one of their songs, or even a few of their songs that you've heard before, and with the idea in mind that they're singing about God and about Jesus, and it'll click. But they came out. They started off by playing Hero, first with a dubstep remix of Hero, and then they actually came out and played Hero themselves. And they played a whole bunch of other awesome songs as well. They played The Last Night from their album Comatose. They played Comatose as the ending song, the last song of the night. And they also played what else? Whispers in the Dark. And they played 4 of their songs from their new album Rise. It was just an amazing time. They always have such an amazing show. They were animated all over the place on the stage and everything. Headbanging going on, including myself, headbanging, just like throwing up the love sign, all that kind of stuff, rocking out, air guitar, all that kind of stuff, and just singing my heart out, yelling my heart out, I should say. I mean, Skillet's a loud band, so you got to try to keep up with them. And it was just an amazing time. Fireworks, pyrotechnics. Skillet's really great with pyrotechnics. And all that kind of stuff. And it was just an amazing time. They ended off with a bang, and that's basically my creation experience. That Skillet ended it off with such a huge performance. Everybody loved it. Everyone was screaming and clapping and cheering for minutes even after they were over. And we just went back to the campsite. We did whatever. We went to go get showers. We went to bed right away. Some of us stayed around and just talked and everything. Eventually, we all went to bed, and the next morning we packed up and went home, and everything was all good. So, you know, as great as things are, sometimes they have to come to an end, and that was my creation experience. The video turned out to be a lot longer than I wanted it to be, but I guess talking about everything that happened within a 4-day period, I guess it really takes its toll. But yeah, so this was the first step in my Christian video series that I wanted to do. I know I haven't like talked about a lesson or anything like that, or anything that I've thought about in the past or am thinking about now, but I still think it's important to share. I wanted to share, and I felt like you guys might have been able to get something out of it. And yeah, so I hope you guys stuck around the whole time. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Sorry again for being so long anyway. And yeah, so if you like the video, leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.